Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Monday, March 18th, presented by Boston Hemp Inc. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, of course, still away in Chicago with Mom, where he'll be probably till Thursday is the date. He's hoping to be back on the show this week. And again, we continue to give Alex's mom our best wishes and thoughts and prayers. In the meantime, it's yours truly, Ian Cameron, on this Monday, and Brett Skalski, who's with us every Monday. Brett's going to join us Wednesday as well. This week at 2 p.m. Eastern for a bonus appearance. But Brett, first off, let's wish your team congratulations. As you said before the show started to me, that the girls have punched their ticket to the Nationals, one step closer to the ultimate goal, right?
Yep. And right now we're just kind of waiting on two of the other districts to round up, finalize, but it's looking like we're going to go in as a 5 seed too. So we've got a good shot to do some damage a couple weeks.
No doubt. Do you change your coaching tactics when you go from just this regular season to the playoffs, or no, it's just, keep everything the same. Don't disrupt the course, keep everything as is. The players are comfortable that way. That's probably what most coaches do too in the pro ranks as well, I would assume. Just don't change anything. Just don't make it bigger than it is.
No, the only thing we'll really do is just maybe add a couple extra video sessions, but nothing overkill.
Yeah, no doubt. Talk to me about this little. We had a little thing back and forth here that we were talking. We got
it's crazy, isn't it?
Going. There's a connection with you and Matt Robinson because you and him both, played with a certain person or people. Like, talk about that. That was amazing. It's batshit crazy.
Well, and you pointed out that one of them had been on the show. Whatever, a couple years ago or a couple
Ben
months
Bauer.
ago.
Yeah. Ben Bauer. He was a guest of ours once, just one time. And it's my fault because I haven't asked him to come back. And it's just, they're so busy and he can't just get back to everyone. There's someone that slips through the cracks and you forget to reach out to. And he was one of them. But he was on the show 2 years ago during the playoffs in 2022, Ben Bauer. Yeah. It's funny. Now I finally reached out again and said, we got to get a reunion on the Ice Guys show with you and Matt Robinson going.
That's funny because I didn't know. I see Ben almost every day.
And you, for that matter. We'll have to get all three of you on one show, yeah?
It's weird. I see Ben like every day. He's one of those guys. We live close together here. He's one of those guys that we skated together every summer when we were home from school or from juniors or whatever. So I've known Ben for a while. And I guess he was roommates with Matt, who also knows some kids that I played with, some guys that I played with when we were kids, when we were younger, youth days. So yeah, it's a small world. It's nuts.
And you're and the funny thing is how small world it is. You're a Pennsylvania guy. You spent most of your time there, Northeast. Matt Robinson's a Texas/Nevada guy, down in the southwest part of the U.S. And yet here you go. You got this connection here with these mutual connections and mutual friends and mutual former teammates. It's pretty
right. And the one guy that started it was a guy I played college with that Matt plays men's league with now.
Yeah.
Out in Reno Reno, I think.
Yeah. Reno Ice Raiders. Apparently he's if you see some of the highlights of the game on Saturday, ripping it up a little bit there, Matt, actually, for the Reno Ice Raiders. But Senior A, defense is optional. And I know for a fact that that's the case in most senior men's leagues because we got the team here just in my little town outside of Hamilton, the Real McCoys, the Dundas Real McCoys, and they're in like 8-7, 7-5 games most nights. It's tough on the goaltenders in Senior A hockey. They don't get enough.
We're too old for back checking now.
No. Hang your goalies out to dry is the motto for senior hockey these days, the senior leagues. Good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, Sunday, St. Paddy's Day. So we had ourselves more than a few pints, even though it was mostly a work day for me because it was the selection Sunday. That's about the worst time that St. Patrick's Day could fall. Couldn't even, do the usual, go to a bar and hang out and just do the old St. Paddy's Day festivities with buddies of mine. Couldn't do it. Not on Selection Sunday. Can't do it. And we got to be anchored at the Mission Control here at the home base and, watch the teams get selected. You got to get your power ratings in order. You got to be able to attack the opening lines when they get posted for these tournament games. But that's about the worst day that St. Patty's Day could fall on is Selection Sunday or on an NCAA tournament day. But it is what it is. We still threw back a few pints, and we still enjoyed the day. The college basketball, of course, was scintillating to get the tournament field announced. But from a hockey's perspective, yep, there's some entertaining games yesterday, and more importantly, it was a good, profitable day overall in the NHL. It started with the Rangers and the Islanders, the Battle of New York. The draw bet doesn't hit, but the bet that I had a little bit more on was the over 5.5. We just talked about it, how it was 3 straight overs in the head-to-head series. My only concern was, the goaltending matchup would be too good between Shesterkin and Sorokin, the 2 Russians, and maybe they'd play well, it would stay under. Not the case. Rangers exploded in the last 2 periods after being shut out in the first to turn a 1-0 deficit into a 5-2 victory over the New York Islanders. And again, this Islanders team continues to be winless on a back-to-back this year. 0-8 for the New York Islanders now on the second night of back-to-backs. Meanwhile, the Rangers are 11-1 now on the second night of back-to-back games. So it's just pretty incredible to see the difference from one team to the other one as far as their back-to-back record is concerned. But the Rangers get the job done 5-2 as the Islanders grip on playoff status right now in the wild card spot is tenuous. The Vegas Golden Knights eventually break the wall that is Jake Allen and beat the New Jersey Devils 3-1. He was terrific. I mean, especially in the first 2 periods. He played a heck of a hockey game for the Devils, kept them in it. In fact, New Jersey's first goal, but then the Golden Knights quickly answered in the third period, and then they added another, and then the empty netter to eventually beat the Devils 3-1. They deserved to win. They definitely outplayed the Devils, and Jake Allen, though, did his best to keep them in it, and that's 2 pretty good starts for him as a member of the New Jersey Devils. But again, the Devils offense can't find it with a telescope right now on the ice. This New Jersey team suddenly having some problems scoring goals and finding the back of the net. Again, just 1 goal. That's not going to cut it in a 3-1 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. The Winnipeg Jets 6-1 against Columbus. Very, very thorough domination of the Blue Jackets in that game. They raced out to a 5-0 lead after the second period in that one. It's funny because Elvis Merzlikins too. I mean, he is just so easily rattled and so easily thrown off his game when he's in net and he's struggling. I mean, there was a time, I think, when it was 4 or 5-0 at the time yesterday where he makes a save. Yeah, Scheifele's in his crease area a little bit, and I think that bothered Merzlikins, who goes right in his face and starts pushing him and instigated that little melee there at the time. And then Scheifele's, I'm just trying to get to the loose puck, and Merzlikins is like, it's in my glove. It's one of the few times the puck was in his glove because he didn't stop much yesterday in that game against the Winnipeg Jets. It's just, I think he's very frustrated. I think he's at a point in his career right now where he's very frustrated. He can't get on any sort of run or any sort of traction or any sort of consistency. He's been playing on this losing organization now for 2-3 years, and Alex and I have said it a million times. I mean, he needs a change of scenery. And I'm not even sure that's going to salvage his career at this point because he's simply got to play better. He's got to do a better job stopping the fucking puck, period. I mean, he's just got to do a better job. But at this point, I don't think that improvement in his game is going to happen in Columbus, Ohio. I think he's going to probably need to go elsewhere, get a fresh start, hit the reset button, change of scenery, all that shit. He's going to need it, I think, at this point with his career to try to give it a reboot. Speaking of a reboot, the Chicago Blackhawks rebooted their chances of winning yesterday in the third period. That was absolutely incredible because, as you know, my best bet yesterday was San Jose Chicago over 5.5. And I thought, when it was 2-1, basically at the halfway mark of the third period, we're in some trouble. And then all of a sudden, the Rubik's Cube, that is Devin Cooley, the debuting starting goaltender for the San Jose Sharks, making his first ever NHL start. The Rubik's Cube was solved by the Chicago Blackhawks. Ryan Donato makes it 2-2. Then a minute 12 later, Kevin Korchinski gives the Blackhawks a 3-2 lead. 11 seconds later, Joey Anderson makes it 4-2. A 3-goal explosion to turn a 2-1 deficit into a 4-2 lead in just a minute and 23 seconds. And it completely turned that game right around. And then Connor Bedard seals it into the empty net. So if anyone got 6 instead of 5.5, You ended up cashing as well, thanks to that Connor Bedard empty net goal with 1 second left. So 5-2 Chicago. They get the victory over San Jose. To be honest, in the first two periods, Cooley it was an admirable effort, but you can tell that's what happens with a young goalie with inexperience and not the greatest numbers in the AHL. When it starts to go south, it can go south in a hurry. And it did that for Devin Cooley, and it did for San Jose as a team yesterday in that third period against the Chicago Blackhawks. Carolina with a 7-2 thumping over Ottawa. Just a dominant third period to turn what was actually a very close game going into the third. It was a 3-2 Carolina going into the third, anybody's hockey game. And then Carolina said, well, that's enough of this shit. We're shutting it down right here, and we're putting this game out of reach. And boy, did they do that. 4 unanswered goals for the Hurricanes in the third period to turn it into a 7-2 romp over the Ottawa Senators. I said this on Twitter after the game for someone that all I had in this game pregame was a small draw bet. I said this on Twitter, and I stand by it. There's going to be some value with Carolina games over the total moving forward. And again, that game went over the total last night. The game against Toronto on Saturday night with Carolina went over the total, because this is about as dynamic and deep a forward group as I've seen them have in a long time. It's amazing how the additions of Kuznetsov, who's starting to get going a little bit for for Carolina, formerly with Washington. Kuznetsov starting to get going with Carolina. Jake Gensel gets his first goal with the Hurricanes yesterday against Ottawa. Suddenly, this is a much deeper forward group. And when you look at their games, they tend to, they have more scoring and they have more firepower than probably they had last year or even 2 years ago with the additions they've made. Like Gensel makes that big of a difference, because now all of a sudden, and wait till they get Teravainen back, who was playing very well before he just got injured a few games ago. Now all of a sudden you've got Gensel, you've got Kuznetsov, who looks like he's playing with confidence and he's happy again. I think he was miserable at the end of his tenure in Washington. It's probably why he needed player assistance program. He needed to get his mind right. Well, it looks like his mind is right again, because he's played well here in these first few games. And then, of course, you've got Aho, and you've got Svechnikov, and you've got Seth Jarvis, who is playing very well again right now. And don't sleep on, some of Jesper Fast, and don't sleep on Marty Necas. And, all of a sudden, this is a group that can do a little bit more damage. Martinuke's been stepping up from the third line role as well. So, Carolina's a lot of times a team I've looked at as all defense and always a spotty offense. Well, they still have the defense, but I think they are more offensively capable now than they've been in quite some time. And they really have shown it. They've come back against Toronto, and then the 7-goal outburst last night in the victory against Ottawa. We saw Pittsburgh beat Detroit 6-3. Just another dreadful night for the Red Wings and for Alex Lyon. Newsflash, man. Your playoffs are in the balance right now. Your playoff spot is in the balance. Your playoff hopes are in the balance. Sit Alex Lyon the fuck down for a little bit, okay? Enough. We've said this for weeks, and I can't imagine the coaching staff isn't aware of something that numbnuts like me can talk about on this show, about the goalie workload for Lyon this year, that he's already more than doubled his career high in starts at the NHL level, and that is significant. You've got to treat the goalies that are just not used to starting all of a sudden 40 games, 50 games like Alex Lyon, when they've started less than 20 before. You almost have to treat him like that Major League Baseball pitcher that's been pitching out of the bullpen for years, and suddenly you expect him to be a starting pitcher and pitch, 90 innings, 100 innings in a season. You've got to manage it, okay? You've got to manage the workload. Put him on a pitch count, put him on a starting count, make sure, or on a limit of number of starts in baseball. You've got to do that here with Alex Lyon from this point, because he's clearly, this to me is physical and mental fatigue that he's battling right now. He's not all of a sudden become a horrendous goaltender. I still think the kid's got talent. He's got the ability, but man, it's screaming from anyone that's watching Alex Lyon in net you can clearly see the guy needs a break. Okay. You need to just give him a rest. I would do the Samsonov treatment with him. Give him a rest, send him down, or just take him out of action for a little bit for, a week, 2 weeks. Let him recharge his batteries, let him hit the reset button, and then put him back in net. That's what you got to do. And maybe he's hesitant to do that because James Reimer is the next in line, and there's not a lot behind him. But and remember, Ville Husso's still not ready to return. That's another factor we have to remember here. But I don't care if you have to call up somebody from Grand Rapids from the AHL. You've got to give Alex Lyon a rest. Okay, he can't stop a puck at the NHL level. He's clearly battling issues fatigue-wise. And I think it's time for that. And it was another rough night for him yesterday. Rough night for Detroit. They got dominated in that game by a Pittsburgh team. I didn't know they were capable of dominating anybody anymore, this Penguins team. But they were able to do that last night, a 6-3 win. So it actually was a pretty good game overall. The only thing I lost was the money line on Detroit. We had the Detroit team total over 2.5. We had the first period over. We had first period both teams to score. Full game over. So the over trifecta hit. The over was in this game was Connor Mack's best bet on the show yesterday. So it was a good result with that. And Detroit continues to be definitely hanging by a thread right now as far as the wild card race is. Well, they're not hanging by a thread, but they're still right in it. But as far as being in a spot, they're hanging by a thread right now. And the last game was St. Louis 4-2 against Anaheim. Hey, the small shot I took on Anaheim first period came through, and then things basically fell apart for Anaheim after that. It was 4 goals by St. Louis, 3 of them in the third, and they get a 4-2 victory over the Blues. We did have a couple of nice, one nice player prop call. Jake Neighbors, we talked about it. He went in a slump. He broke the slump the last game, and sometimes when that happens, the floodgates start to open and you start to get your confidence back. And Jake Neighbors did score for St. Louis yesterday, which was good to see. One of our props hit there. And I do want to point out one thing, too. Kevin Hayes doesn't score often, so we don't see this very often. But I thought it was just super, super cool. I almost got chills, and it almost really, really shook me up when I saw it. Kevin Hayes, when he scored yesterday, and he does this, I think the last couple times I've seen him score a goal, he points up to the heavens, and that is that's an ode to his deceased brother, Jimmy Hayes, who, of course, just lost his life far too soon. Very, very touching. And like I said, that was pretty cool seeing that. Brett, what did you think about the Sunday action?
I was at the rink all day, so I didn't get to see any of the games, but keeping an eye on the scores, I don't mind that Red Wings lost. I have a future bet on them to not make the playoffs as soon as Dylan Larkin got hurt. But it was good, exciting games. I'm not sure how how the Chicago fans are going to feel about that comeback with battling San Jose for that lottery and Celebrini, but it was a good overall weekend for sure.
Yeah, it was very, very exciting weekend for sure in the NHL. And, of course, then you throw in the college basketball stuff, which obviously I was on top of all weekend as well. Busy weekend, fun weekend. But now a new week begins, and hopefully with it comes some new money starting tonight here with the 2-game NHL slate. So let's begin in Calgary at the Saddle Dome. We've got the Washington Capitals taking on the Calgary Flames. Calgary minus 135, home favorites, 6 the total. Here in this game. This is a tricky spot for Washington based on the schedule. 4th road game in 6 nights for this hockey team. We'll see how they manage it, but just on paper, that's not exactly the easiest thing to deal with by any stretch of the imagination. That being said, they continue to defy the odds, this team. Just when you think, hey, finally they're going to fade away and just into oblivion, and this little playoff chase of theirs is going to fall apart, they're still very much, they're 1 point out. They are 1 point out right now of the playoffs, this Washington Capitals team. So all of a sudden, this is definitely a team that probably feels, they're still very much in the mix right now as far as postseason contention is concerned. It's not often pretty. Some nights they outscore the opponent and give up goals. Some nights they dig in defensively. Charlie Lindgren throws in a gem in net for the Capitals, and all of a sudden, they end up getting a victory that way. But somehow, some way, they have hung in this race, and to a certain degree, you've got to give them credit for that, no doubt. So we'll see if they can keep it rolling here against Calgary tonight in this game. Keep in mind with the Flames, this is a Calgary team that's been sort of gotten things back on track, I guess you could say, the last couple of games here. When you look at the way they played, we talked about how much their defense had been struggling prior to the last couple of games. But in the last 2 games, we see that they were able to get things rolling.
Uh-oh. We'll hold tight. He'll be back.
All right, we're back.
There he is.
There we go. Yeah. So what I was saying with Washington is, look, they keep finding a way to get the job done, and they got to give them credit. Like they're still only 1 point out of the playoff. Calgary, meanwhile, we talked about their defense was really struggling for a good chunk of that road trip, but they get back home and they play better at least defensively against Vegas. Although, as I said before, Vegas was terrible in that game. And even Montreal, Dustin Wolf comes in, plays well, hold the Montreal Canadiens to 2 goals. So all of a sudden we've had a little uprising here and a little bit of a step backward with this little theory of mine of taking the team total over against Calgary every game. We'll see how they fare here tonight. Washington has struggled a little bit to score. They haven't topped 2 goals in 4 straight games. They got shut out by Winnipeg. They get blown out by Edmonton 7-2. Even in their last 2 wins, they were just 2-1 victories in those 2 games against the Canucks and the Seattle Kraken. You look at this series history, Washington won in a shootout earlier this season 3-2. Last year, the game in Calgary was a 5-2 win for the Calgary Flames. So we'll see how this one plays out tonight with the Caps and the Flames. This is a tough one for me from a side perspective. This is a very dubious spot for Washington. Charlie Lindgren will be in net. Dustin Wolf, by the way, back in net for Calgary after a solid showing in the victory against Montreal on Saturday night. Calgary's gone over the total, by the way, 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. I have a feeling now with Washington playing their 5th straight road game, and like I said, this is going to be their 4th road game on this trip in 6 nights. And if you go back even further than that, this is going to be their 5th game in 8 nights for this Washington Capitals team, all on the road. I believe it's 8. Let me count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, this is going to be their 5th game in 8 nights. All of it on the road here for the Washington Capitals. So I'm going to sprinkle on the draw because it's a classic draw scenario where you've got Washington in the East, Calgary in the West. Both teams need points, but neither team cares about the other team getting points. So if it takes overtime or a shootout to solve this game and get a winner, both teams will be okay with that. Again, both teams are not concerned about the other getting points in this game. So I'll have a small draw bet. I'm actually going to take the over here in this game. Over 6 simply because of Calgary's track record, 8-1-1 to the over. But I'm going to lay off the team total for Washington because because Calgary's offense is still very good, I think. They've scored 9 goals, and they've been very good at home, too. If you go back and look at the home games for Calgary, L.A., they score 4. Pittsburgh, they score 4. They did get held down to 2 goals against Colorado. But other than that, they've now scored 9 in the last 2 home games combined against Montreal and Vegas. I think they could probably score on, again, this could be a fatigue spot a little bit for the Capitals. You play 5 road games in 8 nights. That's tough. So I could see that happening where Calgary's able to burst through, maybe a little bit of a tired defense here for Washington. They cough up the puck a little bit here in this game tonight. And on the flip side, look, I know Calgary's played better defensively these last 2 games, but Vegas was just awful last week. Montreal, actually, it was a nice performance defensively, but Montreal's erratic in terms of offensive production. Not to mention their coach steps away from the team for a period of time, Marty St. Louis, for a personal matter. So you don't know how that affected them going into the game. We'll see. Maybe Calgary's going to play another 3rd straight, very solid defensive game, help out Dustin Wolf, who has the potential to be a good goaltender. But I think both teams can combine enough to get over the total. That's the way I'm going to approach it here with Capitals and Flames tonight. 8-1-1 again to the over in the last 10 games in Calgary. What do you think here, Brett? Washington, Calgary.
Yeah, this is a tough game. Like you said, Washington's spot in this with all the travel they've done. And the only thing I've done so far is sprinkle on the draw as well. Like you mentioned, cross-conference opponents. Caps are just that one spot out of a playoff spot. So I just have a real small bet on the draw. Not feeling, who knows, with the over-under, Lindgren's last 4 starts, the game total stayed over, but Calgary's 8-1-1 to the over, so who knows what to make of that. I'm just going to stick with the draw, and that's it.
Yeah, I know. The last 4 Lindgren starts have gone under. And then it's 8-1-1 to the over as a team for Calgary in their last 10. So to me, that's why if this was 6.5, I don't touch it. But 6, give me. I know. I think we can at least get a push, get this game to 6. I think it's possible here with these two teams. And these are the spots at the end of a long road trip. You're dragging ass and you're turning it over a little bit more. You're not as sharp mentally, physically. I mean, there's been a long road. There's been a lot of games in a short period of time, all with travel for Washington. I can't envision them being as sharp defensively tonight here in this game's 5th road game in 8 nights. As far as props, yeah, Connor McMichael. I mentioned him on Saturday because he had moved up to the top line, and sure enough, he scored against Seattle in that game. He's back there with Oshie and Ovechkin. He's worth a look. Miroshnichenko maybe on the second line as well. And then for Calgary, we've talked about the same group of players that have been good prop bets lately. Pospisil on the top line with Gaudry and Huberdeau. Coleman with Backlund and Mangiapane. Sharon Govich, has been on fire for the better part of the last several weeks. All of them you could consider here for some goal scorer props here tonight in this game. All right, the second and final game now of this Monday night slate. We've got the Buffalo Sabres taking on the Seattle Kraken. We've got Seattle slight home favorite in this game, -115. The total sitting at 5.5 across the board in this one. I don't like what I see from Seattle right now. Not one bit. It's a team that's, I think, stick a fork in them. They're done. I think we're pretty much at that point with the Seattle Kraken. This last week of games has been absolutely disastrous for them as far as the playoff chase is concerned. They blew it against Vegas, a game they had in their back pocket in that game, and they lost in overtime. They should add 2 points, and instead they got nothing out of it. And they end up losing to Washington in their neck. A Washington team on a back-to-back on the road, and Seattle loses to them at home and only scores 1 goal. That's a bad loss, too. And then, of course, against Nashville, who's clearly the better team, it looks like Seattle's back in it. They tie it 1-1, and then Nashville just scores immediately after that, 2-1, and it totally deflated the Seattle bench. You looked at the Kraken bench after they tied it against Nashville, and they gave up the go-ahead goal right after that on Saturday. It's like the wind was taken right out of their sails, and that was all she wrote for that game, and might be all she wrote here for the series for the playoffs here for Seattle. They're just too far back now, and there's too many teams they got to leapfrog. There's too many teams they have to pass in order to get themselves back into a Western Conference wildcard spot. So I don't like what I'm seeing. And I don't like what I'm seeing, too, since Vince Dunn went down. If you look at Seattle's record since they lost Vince Dunn to injury, he's been out 5 games now for the Seattle Kraken. Other than a win against Winnipeg, they've lost every other game. They're 1-4 in the last 5 games without Vince Dunn in the lineup. They miss him badly. The puck movement, up the ice, getting the rush going. He's better than you would think defensively. He's really improved at that end of the ice, even though people think of him as a puck mover, a puck carrier, an offensive-minded defenseman with great offensive instincts. To me, it's just Seattle has really, really struggled to get any sort of offense going consistently since he's been out. The numbers bear that out. They get shut out by Winnipeg. They only give up. They did score 4 against Vegas. That should have been enough, but they collapse in the third and they lose. And then the last 2 games, you get held to 1 goal on your home ice, in losses to Washington and Nashville. So it's been a rough go here for this Seattle Kraken team. We'll see if there was some talk that maybe Vince Dunn could be back tonight, but I haven't heard any update to the contrary. Joey Decord, by the way, is confirmed in net here for the Seattle Kraken tonight in this game. And very interesting development that Devin Levi has been called up from Rochester back with the Sabres. And there is a chance that they give Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's been very good lately, they give him a rest, and they might give Devin Levi his first start back with the team since January 24th, the last time we saw him. Now, his overall NHL numbers this year with the Sabres, 9-7, 3.3 goals against, .891 save percentage. Nothing to write home about. But remember Joe Woll for Toronto. He had that AHL run, comes back to the big club, and he played great. Devin Levi's last start for the Rochester Americans on Friday night before he got called up, he looked as good as he has at either level this year. 41 shots he stopped, and it was a 5-2 win for Rochester in that game. So very interesting to see, again, how it plays out here for the Sabres. And because they play Vancouver tomorrow night, I'm thinking Devin Levi is going to get that start. And they like this kid. They want him to succeed. And Buffalo's coming off that 4-1 setback against Detroit on Saturday. I think they walked into a situation where Detroit embarrassed for the 7-3 beatdown they suffered at Buffalo earlier in the week. I think this is a great spot for Buffalo to bounce back, get back on track, take care of this woe-begotten Seattle team that's just fading fast. So to me, pretty cheap price. Buffalo here, -105 for me. What do you think here in this one, Brett? Buffalo, Seattle.
Yeah, I have a couple plays here. I'm on Buffalo small, like you said, but I'm also going to sprinkle on the draw just because Buffalo is going to be looking to pick up points any way they can. Same as Seattle, even though I think they're too far to catch up from anyone. And the last thing I have is I'm going to have the Seattle Kraken team total under 2.5 at +130. I think they're without Vince Dunn, they struggle to score. With Buffalo, needing points, going to turn in a strong performance. I think it's even better with Levi back in the mix. I think there's going to be a little extra amp to, protect in front of him and play good team defense in front of him with him coming back up. So I'm going to go with that Kraken under 2.5 at +130 also.
All right. So there you go. Seattle Kraken under team total 2.5 here for Brett. That might be a good look, actually. They're struggling to score. And we all know Levi struggled the last time he was with the Sabres, but he's been there in the American Hockey League for a good solid month and a half. He's worked at his craft. He's worked with the goalie coaches down there. He's played very strong down there in the last few times he was in net for Rochester. And the players are going to rally around him tonight if he's in net. They will for this Sabres team. In my opinion, they will. And to me, I was a little surprised Seattle was -120 because form-wise, they're not -120 over Buffalo right now on any ice surface in any arena. Seattle is not playing with the form over this Buffalo team, which has been very good for the last week or two, where they're -120 better than the Buffalo Sabres. And all of a sudden, home ice has not been all that kind to Seattle. Seattle's 14-20 at home this year. Buffalo's got more road wins than Seattle has home wins. So for all this talk about Climate Pledge Arena being this great home ice advantage for Seattle, it has not played out that way as far as wins and losses is concerned. For props tonight, I'm not totally sold on this being a high-scoring game. I think it could go either way as far as the total is concerned. And certainly Seattle, you look at their recent games, they've been heavy under the last few games. 3 of their last 4 have gone under, including the last 2 home games. And as far as, like I said, the props here, for tonight, Dylan Cousins interested for that. Bowen Byram, I still think props for him. I know he didn't cash in on Saturday against Detroit, but still he's been good, racking up points, goals, assists. His props certainly still have plenty of value, in my opinion, on the Sabres side of the equation. And then it's hard to find anybody that you can count on right now offensively for Seattle. But if I were to go with a couple of players, I'd go Burakovsky for Seattle, 3 goals in the last 5 games, and the other is Oliver Bjorkstrand, who continues to be probably one of their better offensive players, one of their better forwards the last 6 games or so. Points in 5 of the last 6 games and 4 goals in the last 6 games as well for Oliver Bjorkstrand. And yes, Zach Benson, of course. I can't believe I almost forgot to mention him. Zach Benson has been absolutely outstanding. He's been terrific. Like, this guy is still very, very young. They didn't expect him to be so good that he'd be playing with the Sabres the majority of the season. And yet here we are, because he has been that good for this hockey team, and especially of late. He's going to the areas you need to in order to score goals. He's found chemistry with Cousins centering that line. He has 5 points and 3 goals in the last 3 games for the Buffalo Sabres. So there's no question. He's worth a look tonight. And then, of course, you're right. Dahlin and Byram together, man, are they fun to watch. They've got this. It's amazing how they've just played a handful of games together as a defensive pair, and already the great chemistry they've got on that blue line right now for the Sabres. Fun to watch. And if you're the Sabres, you've got these three cornerstone pillar of strength blue liners that are going to lead you, hopefully, to better, more prosperous things in the future when you're talking Bo Byram, Rasmus Dahlin, and Owen Power. Think about having those three defensemen now long-term for the Buffalo Sabres, and that definitely has you feeling optimistic, I think, about the long-term possibilities for this Buffalo blue line. All right, great stuff. That is the Monday card. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. We had, of course, to reschedule the live Q&A video for the Patreon members today because of Alex's family emergency with his mother, but we have not forgotten about it. Okay, we have not forgotten about it. We will definitely get that Q&A video done live on Patreon whenever we can. And again, all the questions, we've seen them all. We've written them all down. We'll answer them all on the Q&A video. We were going to do it today with a light card, but unfortunately, circumstances dictated otherwise. So again, we will get that rescheduled. Speaking of Patreon, make sure you sign up and subscribe. Patreon.com/IceGuys, just $10 per month. Patreon exclusive live betcasts. We will have a bunch more in April and beyond. Our daily sides, totals, and player props are posted there on the Patreon page each and every day. Goalie charts, totals charts, and other bonus content as well. So make sure you sign up and subscribe for just $10 per month at patreon.com/IceGuys. And again, your subscription will go a long way to keeping the show going long term. Patreon.com/IceGuys, just $10 per month. And our next live betcast, this one is public, free for all, Tuesday, March 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we are looking forward definitely to that game. Coming up next Tuesday, March 20th, or that betcast next Tuesday, March 26th. It's a very good slate that night. A lot of good games. We're looking forward to it. Everybody's invited. And if you want to join us on the betcast next Tuesday, March 26th, a DM or email me or Alex for a spot on the betcast, and we will definitely send you the link for it before it begins. And of course, the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your merch every day over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, it is time for Bargain Bin Special of the night and Best Bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great sponsors, Boston Hemp. All right, Boston Hemp Inc. Make sure you check them out. And again, get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys over at bostonhempinc.com. All right, it is time for a bargain bin special of the night. Just 2 games to choose from. Sometimes those can often provide the best results, these little small NHL cards, as far as the bargain bin goes. Brett, where are you going for your bargain bin special tonight?
I am going to go to the Washington-Calgary game. With this game being so crucial for Washington, looking for points any way they can. I'm going to be looking at Connor McMichael at plus 320 to score a goal. Playing on that top line, I think Carberry is going to run that top line into the ground if they're looking for goals late in the game. So I expect a lot of ice time for him and Ovechkin, and I think he'll be able to get on the board. So Connor McMichael plus 320.
Good pick. I think it's live. It's a good one. Connor McMichael, Washington Capitals, plus 320 for Brett Skalski for his bargain bin special of the night. And funny you mentioned that in the chat there, IceX. UPL is expected to start tonight, was seen in Starters Net at the morning skate for the Sabres, which is probably going on right now as we speak, because it's like 11 a.m. out there, West Coast Pacific time. So, and my RotoWire screen just changed from Devin Levi expected to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen expected. So it sure looks like UPL is going to start tonight for Buffalo against Seattle, and maybe we'll see Levi tomorrow in Vancouver against the Vancouver Canucks instead. Speaking of Buffalo and speaking of the bargain bin, that's where I'm going for bargain bin special of the night for this Monday slate. And I'm going to go back to the well with, I can't believe the price is this for this guy, Zach Benson, the teenage wonder for the Buffalo Sabres, who is tearing it up here the last 3 or 4 games. And you can find plus 550 at FanDuel, PointsBet, BetMGM. All of those books have plus 550 for Zach Benson of the Buffalo Sabres tonight to find the back of the net. That is definitely player prop value worthy of bargain bin special of the night status. Zach Benson, Buffalo Sabres, plus 550 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, it is time for best bets for this Monday NHL slate. Brett, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
I'm going to stay with the game Ian has his bargain bin in and go with the Buffalo-Seattle game. I'm going to make my best bet the Seattle team total under 2.5 at plus 130. Even with the change from Levi to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, I think that just shows how crucial these points are for Buffalo, that they want this win and they're going to be shutting the door in front of UPL. So I'll go Seattle team total under 2.5 at plus 130.
All right, Seattle Kraken team total under 2.5 in this game, and shop around. You can get pretty good price still at that. Like under 2.5 is plus 130, plus 140 even in some spots. So you get a pretty good price. And again, sometimes you really got to sweat if you're going to bet a team total under 2.5 sometimes. But we are talking about a Seattle team that has scored just once in each of their last 2 home games, losses to Washington and Nashville. So they've been in a drought, and Brett thinks the drought will continue tonight. Seattle team total under 2.5 for his best bet for this Monday slate. My best bet, same game, but I'm going to go Buffalo money line. This was I knew right away that I'd be on this here for best bet. These are 2 ships going in different directions, 2 ships passing in the night. One's on the upward trajectory, the other is not. And Seattle 1-4 in their last 5 games, not very good. Finding ways to lose on a nightly basis. A nice bounce back spot for Buffalo after a loss to Detroit. All the makings of a reasonable price to back the better team and the team in better form at the moment. The Buffalo Sabres plus 104. That is going to be my best bet for this Monday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Brett Skalski, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we will be back with you tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Ice Guys.